Hello. I want to talk about Baki Dou, that kind of rhymed in a sense. So I really haven't talked about it in quite a while, and I'm just wanna share some thoughts about it. So, basically, the new Baki Dou event, which is the Sumo tournament. So the build-up was quite great, besides the thing that it doesn't really make sense that these sumo wrestlers are so strong but haven't been really focused on previously. So they are a fair match against Dopo and Shibukawa. We all know that, as those fights weren't really fully one-sided. Takatsuki also even managed to defeat Dopo, while Kyoge was always the underdog against Shibukawa. But yeah, these characters aren't all that weak, which is kind of weird as we never heard about them. But disregarding that, it's really hard to not compare Baki Dou to Kengen Omega, as of course in Kengen Omega there is also a tournament which started about at the same time as the tournament in Baki Dou, and also and fight takes about as long in Kengen Omega as in Baki Dou, as while Dopo was fighting Takatsuki, for example, it was about the same length in chapters as Falcon versus Wihito. I don't really want to get into which is better. Kengen Omega, it is a lot more flexible, I'd say. It has a lot more contents in one chapter, but Baki Dou has something I really like, is that it hyper focuses on one or two themes in a fight, which is really simple and really stresses that, and it's really amazing at the end of the fight. Like in the fight against Kyoge and Shibukawa, essentially Kyoge is really strong and just this really massive guy. That's pretty much all there is to him, and he has something to do with condoms. And Shibukawa has this ability to reflect the power and the weight of really strong, buff guys. But Kyoge is really buff and weight and just this massive whale. And the whole fight was just about, can Shibukawa control the weight of such a massive thing? As of course, even his Aiki has to have some limit, and it had a limit. Still, the fight was really exciting, and the whole way how Shibukawa won was quite good. Takatsuki versus Dopo was also quite good, as Takatsuki is a lot stronger than Kyoge, I'd say. Kyoge is actually, from just weightlifting, he's immensely strong. He can be also argued to be about as strong as even Olivia Biscuit. But despite that, he isn't all that really top tierish. But Takatsuki, on the other hand, is a really strong character. He kind of won against Dopo. But there's a thing I want to get into at the end of this video, which is really exciting, and I also titled the video in this way. And the fight was just amazing, and again, it was just a really simple concept. Takatsuki says that a fight is over when the opponent hits the ground, and while he takes massive amount of damage and essentially gives Dopo no damage in the first two chapters of the fight, he still says nothing really changed, as Takatsuki hasn't touched the ground and he isn't about to touch the ground. So the fight hasn't really started yet. Only when an opponent hits the ground it really started, and sumo matches are really quick. So when Takatsuki gets into gear, it's really quick, and I think the whole time that Takatsuki does damage to Dopo only takes it's 2 times and only takes 5 seconds or something. And Dopo, all 2 times in the whole fight, is laying on the ground and basically defeated in a sumo match. So this fight was also quite great, while I still have to say that the backgrounds are too little in Baki Dou 2018 and also in Baki Dou with the whole Masashi arc. The backgrounds, look at the backgrounds, yeah, there aren't any. Most of the time, just the characters have a white background. I don't say the art style is bad, while I argue that Son of Ogre has a better art style. It still is really good in Baki Dou, but it's simplistic and I don't like it so much. But yeah, we get what we get. Then the whole build-up, I really like that each and every character has enough of a build-up to care. Katsumi has the whole thing with Red's arm, Doupo had this little introduction with Sumo, Shibukawa before the tournament started said that he wants to test Aiki, so there's that. Then Hanayama, really, we want to see his scars, and we just said, yo, I want the Sumo, and also he all the time wears an Sumo underpants, I'd say. You know, what Hanayama wears underneath his clothing is kind of the thing that sumo fighters, Rikishi, wear. And Baki and Sukune have the whole struggle. Baki and Sukune of course has a really, really good build-up. I might make a video just about him. He isn't all that great compared to Musashi, but while Musashi was this main antagonist, Sukune is just this challenge of asking what is sumo. He isn't really meant to be evil in a sense, while Musashi wasn't really all that evil, only when you spin it a certain way. But yeah. So there is the title. All the main characters have lost against the Rikishi. What do I mean with that? And honestly, it's really exciting, the idea. So, one problem I clearly see in Baki Dou in the tournament is that nobody has lost so far. Baki won against Sukune while the fight wasn't all out. Okay, of course, Sukune won against Olivia, I give you that. This fight was also not all that bullshit, I think. Olivia did some damage and he just fought in a really stupid way against a character that is bigger than him, as Olivia has certain tricks that he could have used, but he didn't. So, but he still is, no matter how you spin it, weaker than Sukune, but I'm alright with the fight, and it was also well drawn. So, there's the thing. Think about these fights. Think about Sukune versus Baki. Think about Sukune climbing versus Baki in the beginning of Baki 2018. Think about Kyoge versus Shibukawa and Takatsuki versus Doupo. And think about Sumo Rules. Not traditional sumo, not ancient sumo, sorry. So not just MMA, you kill the opponent. Like Sukune fights, but just, hitting the ground and leaving the arena. Baki kind of lost against Sukune while Sukune was made unconscious from this kick of Baki. When Sukune rushed in the second time, he kind of made Baki leave the arena as he pushed him against the barricades of the arena, which in Sumo Rules would be the loss of Baki. So in this way, kind of, okay, Sukune, it's just the title, I guess, but Sukune, of course, lost first, but under Sumo Rules, but shortly after, Sukune defeated Baki under Sumo Rules. So this little exchange, Baki versus Sukune, was kind of uneventful when you think about it, but Baki lost in this fight in a certain sense. So, yeah, in a certain sense. But with Kyoge and Takatsuki, it's a lot more obvious. Right before Takatsuki loses against Doupo, he had Doupo 2 times on the ground. So he defeated him under Sumo Rules 2 fucking times. So this fight, obviously, it would have been a sumo fight. Doupo would have definitely lost, which is exciting. And what also is exciting is that even Shibukawa, when you think about it, lost against Kyoge if it would have been a sumo match, as Kyoge thrown Shibukawa out of the arena into the public, into the audience, and this would be the end of the sumo match if it would have been one. For the end, I want to quickly talk about Kengan Omega again, and its approach isn't really perfect either. The thing is that there have been 3 matchups so far, and the Julius versus this other guy is currently happening, and all of these 3 fights are really similar in the fact that both fighters are really, really similar. Wihito fights a guy that can cut with his fingers, like Wihito can cut with his fingers, and Carlos had been a dark-skinned boxer, and Gao Long is also a dark-skinned boxer, and Julius is just like the other guy, but he has a different skin color. What I like in Kengan Omega is that the two fights that had been concluded so far, the protagonists have lost. So this is kind of good to give it more tension, as the opponents have to have some dominance. And bad situation is that in Baki, Hanayama has to lose to this other guy, as if he will win, the tournament is kind of already won for the protagonist. So it's 100% clear that Hanayama has to lose, or maybe it's a draw, but it can't be a win, as if he wins, the protagonists have won and only 3 matches have been concluded. Comment your thoughts down below. I hope this video isn't too clickbaity, and